Broussard, we are going viral. Duke freshman phenom Zion Williamson was named a first-team All-American yesterday, and now the presumed first overall pick must prepare for NBA competition. And this isn't it. Woo. Throwing down the monster donk in a pickup game because hoopsters hoopsie.
I mean, This is why the conversation about him shutting it down was so absurd. Because he would have just been gone to the gym and done this.
Playing again.
But what?
Look at that backboard swaying now.
That's scary.
Man, look at them white legs on them kids.
I don't know.
He better take a picture. That'll be the last time he playing with that many white legs on the court. Like, that's what I'm just saying. Just take a shot from the waist down and be like, okay, last time, bro. Last time I'm doing charity now. Come on,
It looked like his math class went out there and started playing basketball. I mean, what was that?
I mean, not even a high school class.
Right.
That's
All right, Chris Broussard, moving on to the Thunder. They beat the Lakers 119-103 last night.
In 1960s NBA.
That was a smaller story to the bigger story of one Russell Westbrook. Historic night for Russ, 20 points, 20 rebounds, 21 assists. Only the second 2020 game in NBA history, the other one belonging to Wilt Chamberlain. Also, Russ's 31st triple-double of the season, but clearly this one the most memorable. He called this feat overwhelming. Broussard, how remarkable was Russ's night?
Well, look, we know he dedicated it to the slain rapper Nipsey Hussle, who the 660 represents the area around Crenshaw Boulevard in L.A. where he grew up, and Russ knew him well. To say in an NBA game, I'm going to go out and put up 60. So 20, and 20. 60. That's what Russ was shooting for. To go out and say, I'm going to do something that only one player, Wilt Chamberlain, has ever done, and to be able to do it, that is incredible. Now, I think Russ showed some wisdom by not saying, I'm going to go score 60 points. No. I'm going to get 60 in all these three categories.
How many guys scored 60 this year? I mean, 60 we see a couple times a season.
Right, you see
Harden's done it multiple times.
Right.
He said, there's the apocryphal story of Babe Ruth saying to the kid in the hospital, he's like, hit me 2 home runs, and then he goes out and does it, whether that's true or not. We know Babe Ruth once pointed, called a shot, and hit the home run, right? This is that type of stuff. It has been done once ever. It was 55 years ago by a guy who rewrote the entirety of the record books. And for him to say, I'm going to go out and do it, and he had 10 assists in the first quarter.
Yep.
He was, and in a game his team needed to win because they don't want to be the 8 seed. You know what I mean? They want to move up to that 7 line. It is breathtaking. And it is instances like this where I will always, I don't want to say turn a blind eye, but give Russ the benefit of the doubt on the inefficiencies, on the bad threes, on the weaknesses of his game, because he is one of one in NBA history. Not all for good, but nobody else in the league, and I would argue in league history, could say, I'm going to go have a 20-20-20 game and actually do it.
The only other one was Wilt. I mean, like Wilt, because of his size, his passing ability, he probably could have done it, but that's it. Nobody else. It's unbelievable.
And for me, that I know there's always been a great relationship between the world of rap music, hip-hop music, and NBA players and NFL players. And for something to happen as significant, because, you know, I've been fortunate or unfortunate enough to be alive when great rappers died, Biggie and Tupac, and what happened and the reaction in sports then. But to say, I know this guy, how he grew up, and to be in the community and the type of impact that he's making in the community, having businesses there in the community, giving jobs away, to be able to appropriate the right emotion. Because, man, sports is emotional, and Russ is the leader of the pack. But to be able to get the right type of energy to be able to pull that off, dedicated the game to her. Had the worst game of my career. Dropped 3 balls against the Chargers. Buddy Ryan had a team meeting after the game and singled me out and told me if you ever play that game, and he allowed me to go to the funeral on Friday. Didn't have anything to do with her. In the speech said, if you ever play football like that again, Chris Carter, you'll never play for a Buddy Ryan coach team. So I never had the right emotion in approaching this, and I was a very emotional player. To see Russ do that, when I tried to do something like that, for my grandmother and how I bombed on it, to see him be able to dedicate that and what it will mean to Nipsey's family and to that community there, I thought was the most significant thing.
Chris Paul, famously when he was in high school, do you remember this?
Yes,
his grandfather, right? who was 61, was it?
61, yep.
His grandfather passed away, and his grandfather was incredibly close to him, and he went out there and said he didn't want to play. I think his grandmother told him you should play, and his grandfather died at, I think, 61 years old. He had 60 points, got fouled, hit the first free throw, intentionally missed the second free throw, walked off the court crying.
Broke down in tears.
That was against high schoolers. That was a future Hall of Famer against high schoolers. And I do want, because I understand the audience they hear slaying rapper, and there's, even though nobody blames a murder victim, people might think, well, what was he into? People should know, Nipsey Hussle had a meeting set for the next day with the commissioner of the police force in Los Angeles to combat gang violence. He was a shining example of a redemption story of someone who was helping people in a community that, if I may say, you live very close to.
I stay with my aunt out there. It's very close to.
And a community that needs it. And a community that has a lot of former gang members or trying to reform, and Nipsey was a part of that. And you saw the Golden State Warriors, a lot of them write messages on their shoes. There was a lot of connection there. For him to do this, it's breathtaking. It's touching, but also non-emotional. Just from a basketball standpoint, nobody in the league could do this.
Well, what I like, and I alluded to it, he could have said, let me go out and get 60 points. That would not have helped this team. Like you said, it was a game they needed to win. I think he's thinking, if I can do 20, 20, and 20, that's going to help us, because for all the talk and people criticizing with the triple doubles, when he gets a triple double, they win like 70-something% of the time, if not higher. So I think that was smart of him and showed some maturity as well.
All right, it's a good conversation. Chris, thanks so much for joining us.
All right, my man.
Take a break. Coming up, which opponent is looking forward to taking on Odell and the Browns? That's ahead on First Things First.